I wasn't a goody two-shoe child or anything of that nature, but a friend of mine came over to the house. He had a vehicle. He said, let's go have a ride and, and hang out. So I'm like, all right. Somehow we hit a curve. Like they know the police get behind us. When they get behind us, he takes off. The police start shooting at us, for one thing. Obviously, we freeze. They beat him and they pick us up. The bars itself, for someone that never been in prison or in that realm, just the bars itself and the cold floors, and when the gate shuts, it's very frightening and scary.
You mean that it's unjust to hold somebody in jail pending a case, then I suppose we would never hold anybody in jail, because they're all allegations when they come into court. Everybody's presumed innocent. They have a right to a trial. You cannot snap your fingers and get a resolution to the case. It takes time.
It definitely make you think differently, because they're putting you somewhere that you feel that you didn't do. And then now you have to deal with the circumstance that you're in. So it almost gives you a hard shell, hard skin.
Pre-trial detention is when someone is held in jail prior to a trial because they cannot afford bail.
You can't resolve a case the day it's brought into court. There's no instant justice. So it takes time.
Teron Brown is a student who attends Stamford Academy. In the fall of 2016, he was arrested for second-degree robbery and conspiracy to commit second-degree robbery.
Well, when they first spoke to me when I was in my holding cell, they told me my bail was $150,000. I was an 18-year-old kid. I live with my mother. Like, where would I get $150,000 from?
Even if it were $5,000, $5,000 cash for somebody might as well be $50,000. Coming up with cash like that, if you are in a low-income context, is impossible for many people. Unattainable, yeah. So in this case, he certainly didn't have money his family couldn't come up with the cash that would have required getting him out.
Got transferred to MYI, Manson Youth Institution in Cheshire, Connecticut. Stood there for about almost 3 months. A few more days would have made it 3 months.
Certainly for kids, if you get charged with something, let's say marijuana possession, you get out right away, you get this wraparound service. It's a supportive family, a lawyer that's engaged, a social worker that connects you with teacher, right? You can kind of get back up and continue moving, notwithstanding a criminal charge. But that same kid, if he stays in jail for a night or 2 or 3, those connections just get lost, and it has a kind of long-term effect on the kid's ability and willingness to kind of jump back in and be normal again.
It's just a crazy experience. Like, every day is like someone's looking to pick a fight with you. You just have to keep your head leveled. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. People think you're just in jail and that's it. There's like a whole bunch more going on. Like, almost got into altercation with one of my cellmates. So the lieutenants, they come and grab me in the middle of the night. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. They grab me in the middle of the night and they throw me in the hole. So I'm only in the hole for not that long, probably about 24 hours.
A single kid unfairly charged and held can really change the trajectory of a whole life, not to mention a family.
It's just really crazy to drag my mother and my grandmother through this, because they've been like my support. My mother, my grandmother, my girlfriend, my brother, like close immediate family. And it's like they had to go through this. So my grandmother, who was working at a Dunkin' Donuts, has to help put money up to get $15,000 for bond, and she travels back and forth. So they keep rescheduling court dates for the week after or a day after, and then my grandmother has to come back and forth from New York, because my grandmother doesn't live in Connecticut. So she has to come back and forth all the time. My grandmother, she's an elderly woman. She's going through like a lot of medical stuff, the cataracts in her eyes, and actually going to one of my court appearances, just all the stuff that they were saying how it was going is putting a lot of stress on my family. My grandmother actually dropped down and busted her head, and she had to go to the emergency hospital, like on her way to my court date. And then it was just, yeah, how the system works is different for who you are.
After 3 months, Teron finally had the $10,000 he needed to post bail.
So I got the money up. So I'm expecting to get out this day at my court date. So we go to court, and the prosecutor is basically like denying my bail. Like, so now I have the money. Before, they didn't expect me to get the money at all. They're like, we know there's no way he's gonna get $10,000. Like, we see how this kid lives. He's not getting the $10,000. So the prosecutor is denying it. And so I thought I wasn't going home. I got back to Manson Youth Institution that night after being there for about 3 months. And I had all my stuff packed from the day prior, because I think I'm going home. I had my book, my Bible, like everything that I had in there that I was working on. Just a little writings, little scriptures, stuff to keep me going in there, praying to God and all that.
I'm Suzanne Bates. I'm the policy director for the Yankee Institute for Public Policy. We believe the state's current reliance on cash bail leads to unfair outcomes for many of our state's poorest residents. In a paper we released last year with the Reason Foundation, we looked at Connecticut's pretrial system and found that there are individuals stuck in jail waiting for trial because they cannot afford to make bail, and some of those same individuals would be unlikely to receive jail time for the crimes they allegedly committed. So it's like, why are we holding them in jail before trial if you're not even going to hold them in jail after trial? We spend a lot of money on, to keep people in jail. It's about $10,000 a day to keep someone in prison. And it also leads to really poor outcomes for them personally. So if someone's held in jail, they could lose their job, lose their family. It disrupts their housing. It's just very disruptive to their lives. So why are we doing it? And what we found was that the current system is not set up to let people out if they cannot make bail.
Maybe it's not the system that's failing. Maybe it's the individual who keeps committing crimes. Maybe he's the one who's failing. Nobody tells Danny defendant to keep assaulting his wife, or nobody tells him to keep going into Target and stealing. And if he gets arrested and he sits in jail because he can't make a bond, it doesn't mean that the system has done something wrong or failed. Maybe Danny defendant is the one who did something wrong and failed. I don't want to see anybody waste his life by going in and out of courthouses and jails. And I'm not telling you the system is perfect, but individuals have to take responsibility for their own conduct. And sometimes if their lives are, badly affected, that is, they have to spend time in jail and they lose work opportunities, etc. Maybe they're in that position because they put themselves in that position.
The reason I believe we should have a non-cash bail system is that I would like to see people held in jail before trial only if they're at risk to society. And currently that is not what our system is about. Currently it's about, can you afford to pay your bail and get out?
Truth be told, having money benefits you in all areas of life, not only within the criminal justice system, but within the healthcare system. You name it, having money is better than not having money. It always has been and it always will be. Now, should you be able to buy justice, or should you be able to get out of punishment for a crime, assuming you're guilty, just because you have money? No. And should you be punished because you don't have any money, even though you're innocent? No. So, but stepping back, having money is always going to be an advantage, regardless of what you're talking about. It always has been, and it probably always will be. And that's not because I want it that way, that's life.
For a little while in there, it's like you lose your composure, but you have to keep it together, like not just for the sake of you, but you have to think about while you're in there or while you're going through what you're going through, your family and the people around you, they're going through it with you. So you have to try to hold it up sometimes, even if you do want to break, but you can't really let that break you. I just think it's really unfair how things work, because it says you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But from the whole start of this, I felt guilty until proven innocent.
Growing up, just seeing a lot of things, how certain people are treated rather than other people. Money has to do with a lot of things as well, or just your status. For the most part, there's not too many whites where I was at that did what I done.
I mean, police officers are in cities and they're on street corners. They're not in suburbia, right, on somebody's front lawn. And so the people who naturally come into the system are people who are in the lower income brackets. The system targets lower income brackets just by the nature of how it functions. So because of that, the concept of bail needs to take that into consideration.
New Jersey, for example, has recently reformed their pretrial system. They've gone to a completely non-cash bail system. So that was actually our recommendation, was that Connecticut should move in that same direction and go to a non-cash bail system.
Holding people in jail before they've been convicted of a crime is an unfair system that punishes people for not having money. Our state needs to develop a non-cash bail system for everyone.